Hey there, welcome back. Thank you again for supporting my channel, for watching my videos. Today I wanted to look a little bit at supporting a mood. And I recently wrote a cue. I wanted to talk about it and demonstrate some of my choices because it's a really moody cue, and I have some very specific things that I was trying to target with that. So behind me I've got my Cubase project. And the intention here is to try to support a melancholy mood. So I'm aiming for something very bleak. In my imagination, it's kind of a darker sort of mood, rural, somewhat lonely, and a character that maybe feels a bit lonely, a bit out of place. So that's sort of the general picture in the image in my head. And I've chosen a variety of instruments to try to convey that. I'm using piano. I'm using some synth patches, which I'll go through. I've also got a violin that features. I've got some vocals, like a choir humming, that features as well. So if you have any questions about this stream or others, always feel free to leave comments. I really appreciate any kind of input that you give me regarding the live stream. And if there's anything that you want me to cover or cover in more depth, then please let me know. But let's take a look at the cue. And I'm going to go ahead to the top here and just play it back. So it starts with that sort of piano, but you can also hear kind of a bell sound, and now you're getting a humming. Starts to come in. And behind that humming, there's actually a granular synth. You can hear the violin coming in on the surface there. Now the key I've chosen here is E flat. Although it's ambiguous, it could be A flat minor, and the E flat could be constituting a 5 chord. Now here I have a harmonic change, and you can actually see in the chord track where it goes to a C minor 7 and a B sus 4 that I'm changing the key, I'm changing the sort of tonal center a little bit to something a little more hesitant, a little more tentative before it comes back to the original. The E flat. Now, although the harmony seems to be anchored in E flat, the melody is actually more or less a descending A flat minor arpeggio. Now you may pick up in there is some, it's kind of like a drum loop, a little percussion loop that's kind of helping to keep pace. So let me stop that. And I want to talk a little bit about what some of the choices that I've made were, right? So I have the piano in the very beginning. It's just an octave. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is to support a sense of pace, right? So I want there to be, with the humming, a very subdued rhythmic quality in that main part, the vocals, and then even more vague is the rhythm in the piano. I want there to be something that helps the listener understand what the timing is, right? What's the pace? What's the beat? And I chose to set this in 3/4, partly because 3/4 I think has always been a good choice for me when it comes to writing music that is maybe a little darker. So I chose 3/4, but that tempo or the pace of 3/4 wasn't really coming through with just the vocals. And let me actually just scroll through here and take some of these out. So you can see my piano here in the red. So without the piano, go ahead and mute that. And listen to it at the beginning again. So there's this piano chords kind of a droney sound, which is definitely sending the bleak message, right? It's hard from those materials, from those textures, to identify pacing. And pacing is something I felt was really missing in this piece without something anchoring it. That violin comes in. It's very meandering. All of this is very meandering. It's very soft, and that's supporting well my bleak mood. That's the target, is to create something kind of bleak. But when I let that sort of ostinato, very slow piano octave ostinato, feature more in the beginning, it starts to set a time. It's almost like a clock setting this tempo, even as the humming kind of fades in. And certainly once the violin comes in, which comes in here at the second E flat 9, right about there. Again, it's helped to anchor it with pacing. So that's what the piano's doing. Now the violin is supposed to represent this character. So this sort of disconnected character, somebody with an intention that isn't really being requited. It's not being accepted or valued. So there's sort of a tentative character there, somebody with a purpose that is not really locking in. And there's a struggle there, but it's a quiet, sort of lonelier struggle is the intention behind this piece. Now, when I get to, I'm going to take myself off the screen here. When I get to this section right here at the C minor, the music takes a different tone, mainly because now with a different harmony behind the ostinato piano and behind the choir, which is continuing to hum, although there are a few other sort of ah sounds that come in. The whole harmony changes, but a lot of the melodic ideas don't change. So you still have this A flat sound in the melody, but the A flat minor sound is now no longer existing over E flat and A flat chords, where it has quite a rooted center. Now it's over the C minor, and the C minor is a more ambiguous texture. So it creates a little bit of separation, which is actually exaggerated a bit by this B sus, because a sus chord generally has this very unresolved sort of flavor to it, right? So let me go back here, and we'll play. So the violin is concluding, the character's sort of personality is concluding and giving way to this ambiguity. And if you listen in the background, you can hear. I'm going to just bring up the volume a little bit here. You can hear the drums in the background. It's just kind of like a very light little sort of. It's not exactly a hi-hat, but it's got that sort of quality. It's sort of it's percussion that's of a high register. And it's again reinforcing pace, but a little bit of a faster pace than I was getting with the piano ostinato, right? Now, a couple of things came to mind as I put this together that I also wanted to talk about. First of all, my use of the 9 chords, that was intentional, using 9s throughout, and the B sus4. I think that C minor 7 is actually the only place where I don't have a 9, and that's because I wanted the harmony to have a bit more of a tentative flavor to it. Now, in an uplifting sort of cue, I find 9 chords offer the flavor of curiosity. Curiosity is good, enthusiasm mainly, possibly, but curiosity. When it comes to a darker cue like this, the 9s contribute a sense of hesitance, of tentativeness, lack of confidence, right? So the 9s help to do that. They disrupt a little bit the anchoring of a main triad when you use the 9s, but not in an overly dark way. So that's kind of what I was aiming for. I was aiming for bleak, but still open to interpretation. That it's not it's not a horrendous situation we're in. This isn't threatening or dark. It's just, or not that kind of dark. It's just kind of tentative, hesitant, and potentially very lonely. So I wanted to kind of strike that nuance. That's why I chose the 9 chords. Some other choices that I made were in layering the vocals with, and let me see here where I've got this going on. Kind of looking, oh, actually, let me solo this, and you can hear the drums coming in. I'm going to take myself off the screen, and I'll bring up the volume here. It's kind of coming in. You can hear that percussion. Now it just kind of fades in and then it fades out again. Since I was scrolling past it, I thought I would share that so you could hear it, just in case it had been hard to hear. But I did have I have this choir that's kind of humming this main tune, and I will solo that. Where's my solo? There it is. Sorry, I'm looking at a big screen right in front of me, and my eyesight's not always that great. So you can hear this is basically a descending A flat minor arpeggio. It does have a 9 in there. And one of the things that came to mind as I was working on this was that combined with the piano ostinato that I have down here, it's actually not a piano, this ostinato here. This is actually a synth patch, but it's kind of a bell type sound. So it's not an actual analog instrument. But I thought the combination, this came to me afterwards, it was kind of a happy accident, but I thought it's something I'll use in the future. I thought the combination of the humming choir and this sort of bell sound conveyed sort of a solemn tone that for me is reminiscent of a church. And so it gives it gives a solemn depth to what I'm doing, but it also really plays well with my intention, which is that this would be a sort of rural setting, that we would be in a place where people are connecting through social bonds very much. It's not a city vibe where there's a lot of kinetic energy, but one in which there's much more connection between people in the sort of social fabric, and the humming and the allusions to church-related sounds really helped to reinforce that. So I was really happy with that particular sort of happy accident here. But there was one thing that I had wanted to share, which was, I think, not this choir. Where was it? Let's see. Oh yeah, in Farlight here. So I've got this. This is quite quiet. So I'll play it for you. Let me bring up the volume on that. Hoping that you can hear that. Let me see where I got to go. I know it's probably kind of funny looking at me squinting at my screen, but let's bring this up here. So this is actually a granular synth. It's Farlight. It's a granular synth, and it's using a vocal-based sample. So it's still got this formant quality of a human voice, but because it's sampled and it's a synth, it's also got this very digital element. So I found that actually mixing the two of them together the two vocals, the vocal-based granular and the actual humming choir, blending those two together gave it a little eerier of a sound, because the granular synth gives this eerie quality. It's familiar vocal sound, but it's not a real vocal sound. So I hope this has been constructive. I really appreciate you guys checking out the video. If you have questions about this particular cue or some of the choices that I've made, please post in the comments and I'll get right back to you. I am going to continue talking about topics related to trying to set moods and support character-oriented things in a cue, mood, theme, plot, setting, all of these different things, and as well as exploring different instruments, different textures, and how we can convey these things. So thanks very much. Please like and subscribe. It really helps me surface these videos. And I am not going to be here a couple of days from now. It's Monday right now. On Wednesday, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do a stream because I'll be out of town. But I'll be back at the end of the week, and I'll see you then. Thanks again so much for supporting what I do, and I will see you again later. Bye.